Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The first, thank you very much to the supervisors, Mr. Acep Haryudin MPD and Mr. Mukman Eshum MPD, who has guided me well to get to this stage. And I would like to say thank you to the examiners for watching to my presentations and who has taken the time for these sessions. Allow me to make an introduction about who I am. My name is Muhammad Khanifan Prapanca Pandowo Yugo. My student ID 182200189 and my major is English Education Study Program, Faculty of Language Education. On these occasions, allow me to present the results of the research that I have done entitled Developing Reading Report Text Material Using Quizzes to 11th grade students. In the next few minutes, I will explain some of the important points of each chapter. And first, I will explain about the background of the research. You can see, according to Conlon, Job Nafan 2019, reading is not only for college but for life, because it is very important for better and knowledgeable existence. But the facts on the background show that the reading is not something important, as seen from the students who are lazy to read, lack of vocabulary, and the difficulty of opening a dictionary. Of course, this is also in line with research conducted by Nanda 2019 that they are often lazy and difficult to find information and lost motivation to read. Let's go to the next slide. From the problems, the researcher looks for a solution that is expected to help students to grow motivation to read. In this case, based on Laura and Niswatul 2019, stating that teaching material can help teachers to make it easier in the learning process. Then the researcher made a material product that was assisted by Quizizz, especially in reading material, namely report text, and moreover that Quizizz had never been used at the school. So this is also supported by previous research which state that Quizizz will add new experience for teachers and students in reading English, Tarigan 2021. And according to study 2019, by using Quizizz, students will have a new perspective to read English text. To the next slide. Research questions. There are four research questions. The first, how is the process of developing reading report text material using Quizizz to 11th grade students? And the second, how is the eligibility or feasibility of reading report text material using Quizizz to 11th grade students? And the third, how are the teacher and student responses to the reading report text material using Quizizz to 11th grade student? And the last one is, what is the researcher obstacles in developing reading report text material using Quizizz to 11th grade student? So let's go to the next slide. In this slide, there are four objectives of the research, and the first, to comprehend the process of developing reading report text material using Quizizz to 11th grade student, and the second, to describe about the eligibility of developing reading report text material using Quizizz to 11th grade students, and the third, to investigate students and teacher responses towards the reading report text material using Quizizz to 11th grade students, and the last one, to investigate the researchers' obstacles of developing reading report text material using quizzes to 11th grade students. So, we're gonna go to the next slide. Literary review. In this chapter 2, the author here only takes one online theory of each research variable. At the first, reading. Reading is a fundamental skill that not only promotes literacy but also allows you to obtain as much knowledge as possible. Malati and Putri 2019. And for report text is a type of literature that gives informations about something in its present condition and as the product of systematic observation and analysis. Muftiani 2015. And for the quizzes, Quizizz is a narrative and adaptable educational game, something like game applications that can be used as a means of teaching curriculum as well as a fun and engaging learning evaluation medium. Husna 2021. So, okay, for the research methodology, this research method is R&D, research and development, using the Brook and Gold method, which has 10 stages, includes potential problems, data collection, product designs, design validations, revision design, product trial, and product revision. And 8, usage trial, revision products, and mass productions. But in this case, the researchers only uses 7 stages because it is in accordance with the procedures that have been carried out and based on Book and Goal, so that for the Strata one can be simplified for the steps and according to the needs and conditions. So, for subject of the research is one of vocational schools in Cimahi with a total of 15 for the small scale and 30 for the large scale. Let's go to the next slide. Segment of the research. The researcher used 3 research instruments to answer the 4 research questions. The first, questionnaire, a questionnaire to know the responses and of students and teacher. After using the product development, validation sheets, validation sheets to measure the feasibility or eligibility of the product. And the last one, field notes. Field notes to describe the research and the product development process and investigate the problem that the researcher faced. Okay, on the chapter 4, we can see here that there is a step reduction in the R&D version of Brook and Gold, and he also stated that we can simplify the steps of the researcher. In another article, the researcher reads that for Strata 1, it's enough to go to step 7 because the time and conditions. And the first stage is potential and problems. The reality in the field is the difficulty of students in understanding the reading text because the learning material are less something like it's not interesting, so that the students are not enthusiastic in learning the material, and students' vocabulary skills are also difficult because the teacher interprets students directly in the learning process, And the researcher concludes that the main problem that hinders students' difficulties in understanding English text, it's the lack of innovations in learning materials in English subjects, so that the students' learning motivation decreases. The first step that must be done is to find out what the materials are suitable for students to the English reading text. The second, data collections. Data collections of information. After the collection of information is done, after analyzing the problems in the field by noting what is heard, what is seen, and absence of innovation in teaching material use, learning English is the main factor. And students' lack of understanding of vocabularies, uh, learning material using quizzes are considered effective information data regarding to the development of English teaching materials were obtained from various journals, previous research, and expert opinions were collected and processed to procedure teaching material product using quizzes. And a third, product design. In this stage, the researcher designs teaching materials or learning materials that are applied to the quizzes applications, which will be validated by the validator. And the fourth, design validations. Validation is done to see if a product is feasible or eligible and to find out what needs to be modified to make a better media. In the validations, it contains the relationship between the syllabus and the material made, about design and student convenience. And fifth, revision design. In this stage, the researcher revises the things that are still lacking according to the validator. This is done for a better product. And the sixth, product trial. In this stage, the researcher tested the product on a small and large scale. To test the product, the researcher used a questionnaire to determine the students' response to using the product. And the seventh, product revisions. In this step, the researcher revises the product again because there is something that must be improved, especially on the product, and there are students' opinions about the lack of this product. So the researcher must revise again so that the product becomes optimal. Let's go to the next. Okay, in this slide, to the test feasibility of the product, the researcher uses the Gregory formula in Ioningsi 2020. We can see here that there is a category of product validation in the Gregory formula, that the category has been determined as must start from O until 1. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, and here is the form of the formula of Gregory. Can be seen in the table beside. A is number of items with irrelevant ratings by both validators, and B, number of items with relevant assessment by validator 2, and C is number of items with irrelevant assessment by validator 1, and the last one is D, number of items with relevant assessments by both validators. So, and then we have to enter the result to the validation. We can see there is something like a formula. So we must enter the validation result according to the table. Then in the end, we will tabulate the divided the result of A, B, C, D, you know. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. In this slide, the result of eligibility product using validation sheets. In the screens, it appears that is the data that the researcher has entered into Gregory's based on type correctly. So this is the slide and the result 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then so in this step, the result of eligibility product using validation sheets. The next steps after we know the number of each letter, we input into the formula. D is 15 and A is 0, B 0 and C 1 and D 15. And then the result is 15 divided by 16 is 0.93. This is included in the category very high validations. In the next slide, small scale. The result of small scale. The following are the result of the tabulations on small scale trials via Excel using a Likert scale. You can see it. So, in the Likert scale on Sugiono, there is a PS formula, which is the percentage as the number of respondents answered in one item, and N is the ideal score. Next topic. Okay, in this slide, after we enter the data from the result of the questionnaire, we will see the results of each item, and we add up the result of all items, and we get a score of 581, and the ideal score is obtained from the largest Likert, which is 5 times the number of students, which is 75. Then 75 times 10 items, that is 750. Then 581 divided by 750 times 100%, which is the result is 77.4, is included good category. Okay, in this slide, following are the results of the large-scale trials that the researchers have tabulated in Excel. A Likert scale, not much different from the calculation of small-scale trials. It's just that in the large scales, there are 30 students. So if we tabulate each item score, is 1221, and the ideal score is 150. Then we multiply 150 times 10, which is 1500. Then 1221 is divided 1500 times 100%, which is 81.4%, gets the very good category. With with the same calculation, that to find out the teacher's response is the same as the previous one using a Likert scale, we can see in the table that the total score for each item is 46, while for the ideal score it's 50, which is obtained from a scale of 5 times 10, which is 50. So we can input it to the formula that 46 divided by 50 times 100%, which is The result is 92%. It includes a very good category. Okay, the last one is obstacle of the research. The researcher uses field note to answer these questions. Researchers found 7 obstacles in this study. The first was the difficulty of taking the R&D theory according to the conditions and needs at that time. Then the difficulty of finding indicators that become the basis of the assessment, the absence of FGD with design experts and learning material experts. So to the next slide. Okay, you can see on the screen in chapter 5 there are conclusions and suggestions. For the conclusions of the process, the researchers only uses up to the 7th step, and then for the product feasibility test get 0.93%, very high validations, and students responses, the result of small scale for students is 77.4%, a good category, and an 81.4 include a very good category for large scale. And then for the teacher responses got 92%, includes very good category. And about the obstacles, researcher get found 7 obstacles in this study which are expected to serve as evaluation material for researcher as well as future researchers, so that they are not exposed to similar obstacle, so that the product can be better and maximized. For the suggestions, this is the last one. The researchers suggest that the development of this product be carried out until the last step, so that the product can be perfect when used. Then the researchers must be able to manage the time well, so that the R&D step can be structured and carried out properly. So then don't just focus on report text, but there must be innovations to make other takes that can be applied in the Quizizz applications. So I think that's enough for my presentation. Thank you so much for your great attention, and I really appreciate for it. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.